Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kamogelo from Boston Media House. Today, we're going to talk about communication across cultures. So, this is the process of exchanging information and ideas between people from different cultural backgrounds and involves understanding and navigating cultural differences to communicate effectively. In South Africa, it is essential to know how to communicate across different cultures because the country has a diverse population with many different cultures and languages. Effective communication across cultures can help build bridges between communities and promote understanding and tolerance. With the rise of global media, it is crucial for media practitioners to understand how to communicate effectively across cultures to reach a wider audience and ensure their messages are received and understood by people from different parts of the world. So, I've had an experience while trying to communicate with someone from a different cultural background. I once went on a vacation to Durban with my family and I needed some assistance at the mall. So I asked one of the security guards for directions to the toilet. I was speaking in English, which is my home language, and he replied in isiZulu, which is a different language to the one I understand and speak. I couldn't understand anything he said, and I had to rely on his body language and hand signals to understand the directions and instructions he was giving me. He also couldn't understand English properly, and he also couldn't understand Sesotho, which is also another language that I speak at home. Now, the same situation also happened in Durban the same week where I had an emergency and I needed some assistance at Discam. So I was looking for a specific product and I mentioned this to the sales assistant at Discam, and she was a Zulu woman and she couldn't understand what I was saying. So I had to use an image. So I had to go on Google and search the product that I wanted. And I showed it to her, and then, she ended up understanding what I was looking for and she was able to help me. So I also experienced the same thing at work where my colleagues asked me to complete a task for work in their home language, which is isiZulu. And I couldn't understand what they were saying, and they would often have to repeat themselves in English again. And sometimes they would share some jokes with me, but because I don't understand the language, I'd always look very confused, and they would sort of kill the joke, and I wouldn't be able to respond, or they would have to repeat the joke again in English. I used to struggle communicating with Xhosa people due to their cultural differences and their loud and impulsive way of speaking. For me, the way they spoke so loudly always annoyed me, and it always made me feel like they always wanted to be the center of attention. I also felt embarrassed by my younger brother's behavior, who would often say wild things to strangers. So every time we go in public, when we're talking to people, and he would just say absurd things, and that would make me feel embarrassed to even call him my brother. I also found Xhosa people very self-centered because they would talk a lot about their culture without showing any interest in other people's cultures. This used to happen a lot in my childhood, whereby my friends would often talk about their traditions, how lovely their culture is. They would never show any interest in our culture. However, spending time around Xhosa people helped me learn about their culture, and I've built enough tolerance and I've become more comfortable with their way of communicating. And even when they're very loud, I try to match their communication style and not let the language barrier annoy me anymore. Now, for Boston media students to succeed in today's globalized workplace, students need to improve their cross-cultural communication skills. This can be done by developing cultural awareness, learning a second language, developing listening skills, adapting communication style, and seeking feedback from colleagues. By educating themselves about different cultures and adapting their communication style and actively listening to their colleagues, students can communicate effectively and respectfully across cultures.